Welcome back to another segment of ACRP TV. Today, our spotlight is on how to advance patient centricity in clinical trials. We've got someone with us today who's actively involved in that, going beyond words, which is quite important. Allison Kalloo is the founder and president of the Clinical Ambassador and iParticipate. She's also involved in an interesting new PAC we're going to talk about to advance patient centricity. Allison, first, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you,
Let's jump right in. This is such an important topic. We hear it's a buzzword. It gets tossed around a lot. People talk about what it means to them, and sometimes we don't hear much beyond words. It's nice to hear about some actions you're engaged with. So tell us about this PAC you're involved with and some of its goals.
Sure. I would start by saying that Medable's Patient Advisory Council is true to its name. Our goals are simple, really. We want industry to think of patients, meaning the end user, first. The PAC is dedicated to enlightening industry about patient centricity. Where it had proven difficult to operationalize for industry at large in the past regarding prioritizing patients and the patient perspective, the PAC now provides a team complete also with our Patient Champion Network, or PCN, which allows us to drill down even farther into specific diseases and indications that are actually represented by real patients and their caregivers. And all of us collectively are focused on ensuring that industry clients begin to see things differently, namely through the lens of the patient. And ultimately, that industry will be more proactive in understanding and responding to all of those places where study design impact the patient experience. And I would go further to say that embedded in our PAC DNA, if you will, is also the main goal of my company, Clinical Ambassador, which is to be a conduit of more meaningful engagement of minority participants in clinical trials. We are starting by facilitating more conversations like this regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, with industry partners as well.
Now, you just mentioned your own company, but I also know from you and I chatting in the past that you've got something of a personal connection to this issue. Could you talk about that a little bit?
In addition to being a patient recruitment specialist in the DEI space, I have personally been actively advocating for broader public awareness for a while now, which intuitively plays a crucial role in advancing access. I have been an entrepreneur, an advocate, and what I like to say is an evangelist for patient participation for close to 30 years now or so. My mother, though, was the first person I ever knew who participated in a clinical trial. Fast forward, I was deeply honored when the ACRP gave me the award for advancing public awareness a couple of years ago, because I've been in the trenches for years now. But I also remember thinking at the time, Michael, I wish that in all this time, all of industry and the larger society had more to show for this public awareness. We have not really put hard numbers behind improving awareness and measuring our progress, and we should. We have made some strides, and I have been part of that change, thankfully. But make no mistake, we still have a lot of work to do. And I'm hoping that industry will be better listeners than they have been in the past, and that it will have more of an appetite for implementation. Right now, being part of the PAC means that there is yet a larger chorus of voices. And my hope is that Medable will wield more leverage and help with some of what has truly been a lot of heavy lifting, bringing attention to the need for more diversity, equity, and inclusion when they get behind these important initiatives. Only have I been a patient advocate in a professional role, but I've been a patient myself. I have actually participated in multiple trials. In fact, I'm currently enrolled in a study. I'm in the Novavax COVID vaccine study. I'm a huge proponent of making sure that people who work in industry really understand what it's like to participate. If you're not a participant, how do you ever really know?
Now, a moment ago, you talked about there being some progress in this area. Clearly, we're nowhere near where we need to be, but sort of bottom line, can you talk about the PAC that you're involved with and how you hope it's going to move the needle? I don't like that term, but improve the
Yeah.
situation, raise the bar.
Sure, sure. So in my personal opinion, patient centricity is ultimately about optimizing the patient's sense of empowerment. Now, mind you, this is Allison Kalloo speaking. I'm not an official spokesperson for Medable. Let me be clear about that. But I hope that the Medable PAC will continue to focus on making industry more accountable to patients, that we are making inroads with creating measurable action items for our industry partners, and essentially holding people accountable. As we all know, intuitively, if not explicitly, the things that get measured are the things that get done. The things people get reminded about are the things that get done. I want the PAC to advance the notion that we can and we will be taking assessments and coming back a year or so later and finding out what has changed for the better. I think we're in a position to make that a reality. Medable's bandwidth, its structure, the focus on decentralized trials, and goals around patient centricity alone make that a strong possibility and not necessarily a pipe dream. They certainly make a great partner for clinical ambassador as we expand our hopes and our dreams in that regard as well.
Well, I have to say, this is genuinely encouraging. I'm really excited about this segment, and I hope it will inspire others in the industry maybe to join this or get more involved in this in their own way. This has been our ACRP TV spotlight on how to advance patient centricity in trials. Our guest is Allison Kalloo, who's the founder and president of Clinical Ambassador and iParticipate. Allison, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure and an honor, Michael. Thank you so much for having me. Look forward to our next conversation.